Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday. Good to see you all. Feel free to come off camera, come join us if you can. I know some people are eating lunch during this time. I'm so happy to have you. Hi, Liz. Hi, Rachel. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Happy Friday. We made it. We made it. Wonderful. We're going to give folks just a few more seconds to drop in and join us. But I'm so excited to talk about this issue today. Go ahead, if you can, drop into the chat feelings around this talk today. The problem with being fine. The most well-adjusted woman in the room is often the most stuck. Any feelings, reactions about this topic today? Go ahead and drop those into the chat. Mine is excited. Heather says curious. Yeah, love it. Liz is also excited. It's okay to say I'm not fine. It is okay to say you're not fine. That's a big part of what we're going to be talking about today. I told someone I was feeling fine this morning when I definitely was not fine. Yes. Faye, we have all done that. So we are going to get into that today. Awesome. Rachel, definitely ready for this, especially your store's closed still. Oh gosh, just getting perspective. I'm ready for a shift and being real and vulnerable. Well, with that, you're in the right place, my friends. You are in the right place. I am so excited to be here with you today, talking about this very important topic, the problem with being fine. I think based on just a little bit of what we saw in the chat, we have all responded to the question, how are you? With, I'm fine, even when we aren't. And so part of my work is really speaking to high achieving, ambitious, well adjusted women, just like the ones on this call, and how being this way often keeps us very stuck in our patterns, stuck in the ability to move forward. And so today we're going to talk about why you're too well adjusted for your own good. So, with that, my music wants to come back in. We're not going to play that the whole time. I want to welcome you. This is my collection series. It's a free or low cost masterclass series that I run every month. This is a space for ambitious women leaders and entrepreneurs who are done with settling with fine. Every month we go into a topic deeper and deeper. So I launched the collection back in June because largely I just wanted community. I wanted to be with other women who were like me and to really provide a space, a safe space where we could come in and connect with each other and learn about things that we can all plug in and relate to. So every month I host pretty much a free masterclass where you can come in about a topic. We've talked about in June, we talked about stop doing business like a man and this idea of feminine leadership. In July, we talked about your body kept score. Now what? All about the nervous system. And then this month, we're going into this concept of being too well adjusted for our own good. So at the end of this masterclass, I'll share more about what's coming in September because you're not going to want to miss it. Okay, so why are we here? By the end of this session together, in 1 hour, you will begin to understand why you became too well adjusted for your own good. Because we didn't just wake up this way. We weren't just born this way. This is something that has evolved over time. And I am going to give you some space to really slow down and think about why you are the way you are. So, one thing that I will say for the folks who are here live with me and those watching on the recording, you're going to want something to write with for this hour together. So, whether you use your phone and your notes app or a piece of paper, and a pen, we're going to be doing a little bit of reflection. So if you want to go ahead and grab those, grab them now. Another thing that we're going to be really trying to accomplish together during our time today is we're going to get honest about what being too well adjusted for your own good is actually costing you. Because while on paper everything might look like it's going fine. I'll use the word. The reality is that all these programs running in the background are coming at a cost to your well-being. And so we're going to talk about exactly what those are. And I'm sure many of us will be able to relate to these things in our everyday experiences. And then most importantly, the last objective of our time together is learning how to start moving past this. As someone who was far too well adjusted for my own good, I have now recreated a life where I am able to say, I think it was a point made in the chat, Liz, you said like being able to say, I'm not fine, I'm not okay, and being able to ask for that help and support. And so, what are some small steps that we can begin taking that make a big, lasting impact? So, for those on the call, there are some new faces here, which I am so excited. I love when I get to meet new people through the collection series. And then there's some returns that know me quite well. But my name is Dr. Elena Puff. I am the founder of Flow State Coaching and Consulting, and I work as an intuitive business and leadership coach. My story is largely an embodiment of what I'm teaching here with you all today. I have a background in public education, so I was a classroom teacher, middle school English. It was a wild time. I then became a school psychologist once getting my master's degree and was really spent most of my life serving others. Um, it was when I was in that job as a school psychologist that I really experienced crippling symptoms of burnout at the ripe age of 25 years old. I knew in that moment that I was not living, I was merely surviving, and that I needed to make a change. And so I did what any well-adjusted young woman would do. I went and got a PhD. So I went and got more school as if that would solve the problem, and got my PhD in psychology. And in that moment at my graduation ceremony, that was my big awakening, my big aha when I was just 30 years old, that I knew that I was on a road that was going to be very short-lived and unsustainable. And that's when I made a vow to start this process of healing and returning back to this sense of self-trust by way of my intuition. Up until that point, I had, done everything that I was supposed to do. I was a good girl. I followed all the directions that were put in front of me of what I should be doing. And really, in that moment, I had the opportunity to return back to my sovereignty and realize that I was in control of my life. And so, flow state was birthed out of this concept of being dissatisfied, largely in the mental health industry, is where I come from as a therapist and psychologist, feeling like I wasn't really able to help people in the way that I wanted to. And so, this business is a reflection of everything that I have gone through in order to be the woman with you here today. And what I teach about now is I speak specifically to women like me, ambitious, smart girls who have done everything right. They followed all the directions and they're still coming up short. And I help them build this deep sense of clarity of what's coming next, how to not sacrifice your personal life for your professional ambition and create a deep, lasting sense of self trust. Because for smart women, we spend most of our time up here using our logic and reason. And so much of my work is around building that relationship with your intuition, that deeper wisdom that's running through us from our neck down, and really helping women to tap into that so they can build a life of their dreams. And so, again, I'm just really honored to have each and every one of you here with me today live. And for those of you who are catching the recording, thank you for making space in your schedule to talk about this really important issue and just open yourself up to receiving these messages. I'm deeply honored. Okay, now the fun part. Enough about me. Let's go to you. When someone asks you how you are doing, how do you typically respond? I kind of alluded to this already. Can someone come off mute or drop into the chat? How do you typically respond when somebody asks you this question? I'd love to hear from you. Rachel, when somebody's at the store and they say, "Hey, how's your day going?" What do you typically say? I'm calling you out a little bit. Oh, we have some chats. Perfect. Um, Good, thanks. How are you? Absolutely. That's my go-to. Same. I'm okay. Good, fine. Hanging in there. How are you? Because it's easy. That is such an important point. I'm good. How are you? Trying to take the focus off of myself. That's a really important point, Rachel. I can't even say I'm fine or I may cry. Okay, you guys are, I love these reactions. Okay, so a few things here. Really important points that were brought up in your responses. So this is so interesting. When somebody asks how we're doing, at the grocery store or out in public or at a restaurant, we like universally tend to default to this, I'm fine. I'm good. How are you? And Rachel, you brought up a really important point because one of the reasons that we do this, when I ask why is that? Why do we respond this way? Is because a lot of the times we're unconsciously trying to take the attention off of ourselves. And think about this. The question, how are you doing, is a very vulnerable one. If I had all the time in the world and I could look at each one of you on this call and say, how are you actually doing? I guarantee your primary response wouldn't be, I'm fine. I would hope that you would share these vulnerabilities of, you know what, I'm actually having a really hard day, Elena. Actually, I'm really in a tough season. Or things are going super well. The sun is shining here. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and it's been raining for 20 days and 20 nights. Like the sun is shining here. I'm enjoying the weather today. There's always more elaboration when you have that space. But as a society, we have gotten really accustomed to just spitting these responses, I'm fine, back. And there is an unconscious phenomenon happening when we do this. And today we're going to figure out where that unconscious phenomenon really originated from. But this idea of taking the attention off of us, putting it elsewhere, putting it on the person asking, and kind of just in this automatic social exchange that each and every one of us do quite often, it sounds like. So let's talk about why I'm doing a whole masterclass on this because you might be looking at it and being like, it's really not that big of a deal, Elena. It's just a social nicety kind of thing. The reason this matters is for high achieving, smart, ambitious women, we are extremely attuned to everyone that is around us. So I imagine the women on this call and those watching the recording feel like they can have a pulse on everyone. We are excellent at being able to take the test the vibe in a room. We can go in and kind of evaluate whether it's at work and we walk into a room and we can feel the energy of that space. We might notice one of our family members or colleagues struggling or having a hard day. You can even anticipate problems before they actually happen, right? So this is part of being deeply intuitive. You are able to look at your surroundings and feel so deeply that you can kind of get a sense of things before they even happen. And so this is really important because what that allows us to do from the time that we were young girls is we could look at these environments and these situations and immediately be able to respond to them, which is a strength. I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing, but it also comes at a cost. Because what the cost is that you're actually deeply exhausted. I mean, think about it. If you're going into your office, for example, for my girls in corporate and the 9 to 5, if you're going into your office and you're constantly unconsciously evaluating the temperature check of every room, every client conversation, whatever it may be, that is coming at a tax to your system, to your nervous system, to your ability to be fully present, all the things. For a lot of my background as a therapist, when I was working with clients 8 hours a day, that was coming at such a tax to my system because I was holding space for people to share very vulnerable things and attuning to them constantly. And so, again, I always say that being able to pick up on that vibe in a room or in an environment is a gift, but it also comes at a great cost. And usually that cost is your well being. So, this capacity that I would imagine most of us have on this call, it doesn't come for free. And I shared a little bit in my story the cost that it came for me. Many women that I work with who are in my world are extremely burnt out. And I'm not talking like, oh, I need like a day off where I can get some extra sleep. It's like a deep degree of exhaustion, just general fatigue that is unwavering. I think at the height of my burnout, I was sleeping like 14 hours a night or something. which and still waking up and not feeling rested. My whole system just felt completely fried. And then similarly, I have women who are experiencing burnout who are having trouble sleeping. They have racing thoughts. They're laying awake at night thinking about everything they have to do or what they should be doing instead. Burnout also can look like a loss of interest in your passions. When I was really trying to make things work in my past career, I wasn't doing anything around like my interest or hobbies. I wasn't doing anything to take care of myself. I felt this general uninspiration for anything outside of, basically getting enough rest so I could get up and do it all again the next day. It also comes at the cost of your relationships. I would imagine the girls in this room, like we tend to give, we're givers. And when you give more than you receive, because you're not saying what you need, that comes at a cost. That can come in intimate relationships and friendships as quiet resentment. That can come as not feeling like you can really be yourself around people in your world. And so the richness of your relationships might really suffer because, again, on the surface, you look fine. You look great. And not knowing how to advocate for what you need is a barrier to being able to deepen in your relationships. Chronic stress. I just looked up, I'm giving a big keynote next week, and I was looking up stress statistics for the United States. And I don't have it in front of me, but based off my memory, the stat was 83% of individuals in the United States who have full-time employment are stressed, like have a significant amount of stress. 83%. So this isn't like a small subset, or if you're in this profession, you have more stress versus this profession. Like, generally speaking, folks who are working feel and are impacted by stress. And then the stat was something around like 58% of those people have a degree of chronic stress that impacts their functioning at home. So over half of us. And that functioning at home comes up in a lot of different ways, some of which I already mentioned through deep exhaustion and decline in your relationships. But what's really interesting about this, ladies, is that the chronic stress that I'm talking about, most of us really don't even identify with it anymore because we become so used to it. Like I know for me, I just thought like my baseline level of functioning was normal. Meanwhile, like I checked my cortisol levels and they were through the freaking roof, right? Like, and I was like, oh, I just thought that was like what we did. And so for so many of us who are too well adjusted for our own good, we just think we're just like living life, right? We don't know anything different, again, because this has been our baseline since the time we were young. And so the invitation here is to really take a moment of self-awareness and think, is this normal? I remember talking with a colleague when I worked in public education, and she was like, "Yeah, I like leave work on Friday and I don't think about it again until I get there on Monday." And I was like, "What's that like?" Like, I've never experienced that kind of disconnection from my work. And so, even using those points of reference from people around us who maybe have mastered some of these skills is so important for us to start taking inventory of like, okay, maybe this is coming at a greater cost than I realize. I talk all the time about physical symptoms. One of the things in my burnout journey was I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. I have since reversed that autoimmune condition completely naturally. The autoimmune condition, I was told that I would need medication for the rest of my life to be able to sustain, normal energy levels. And the reality is that I needed a nervous system reset. I needed to be able to come back to the authentic expression of myself and build my life around my values and the things that felt good to me. And then my body has the capacity, as does yours, to heal itself. So a lot of the times when people are struggling with sleep, like I already mentioned, or autoimmune or immune system deficiencies, this is what we talked about last month with your body keeping score. When you constantly put her under chronic stress over and over and over again, she's going to give out on you. She's not going to be able to continue to sustain at this high level of performance that you've always been at. And then last but not least, bringing in my mental health background, I see a lot of women who are just struggling with, pretty crippling symptoms of anxiety or depression. And I think the instinct here in our modern society is to treat those symptoms, right? Like go and get support, go to therapy and get support with my anxiety or get on an SSRI or an antidepressant. Like again, this is these are normal things, but the reality is I'm more interested not in the anxiety and depression, but the root cause. Why are you feeling such crippling anxiety or such deep, deep depression? And so again, these are things that are below that surface of a life that looks otherwise perfect and fine, right? And so again, hopefully you guys can plug into some of these listed here of things that might be showing up in your own life. Maybe not all of them, maybe even just one of them. I think we all have an opportunity to deepen in each one of these areas. And so yeah, this kind of capacity does not come for free. So what do we do about it, right? What's going on here? Um, I'll start with me before I start with most women I work with. Me, I was trained to be a psychologist. Therapy was my middle name. I loved therapy. I was like, this is totally great. This is wonderful. Like, I'll just find a therapist and talk about these things. I bounced therapists 8 different times before I found somebody who actually met me. And I'm not here to shit talk therapists. I think therapists are incredibly talented. There are some of the most dynamic folks out there doing amazing work. But I'm going to shit talk the therapy industry for a second. What gets in the way of women like us getting help in traditional therapeutic models is, first of all, the relationship. We need somebody who understands the world the way we do. For me, I was going to really highly credentialed therapists. I was paying private pay. I was paying cash to go there, thinking, oh, I'm going to get a better like quality of service here. But what ended up happening was I would get into these sessions and I would talk my way out of my problems. I would over intellectualize. I'd be like, I'm really stressed with work, but I'm exercising 3 to 4 times a week, so it's actually getting a lot better. Or something to the extent of, I am adjusting my diet so that I'm getting more fruits and vegetables, and I really feel my mood and energy is improving. I would talk around my problems and again, over intellectualize. Like, I know I do this, I know why I do this, and here's what I'm doing to fix it. So, most therapists would look at that and go, oh, great, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Not realizing that that was part of my masking, part of my coping, because I was deeply afraid to actually talk about the very topic that I'm sharing with you all today. And so this is where the relationship with a provider is so important, whether it's a therapist, a coach, a mentor, whatever it is. Somebody who understands your lived experience, who knows that when you're working with high achieving, ambitious women, we'll do everything we can to mask the pain that we're actually carrying. And so it was finally finding someone who could see beyond just this mask and say, Elena, I know that you're really struggling and it's okay. And then my readiness to be like, okay, I need to make this change. Again, it's the perfect synergy there. And so for a lot of women that come in to talk with me through the coaching world, I met with a woman last week. She said, I burned through 5 therapists in the last year. And I asked her why, and she said, I felt like I wasn't able to get to the root of my problems. And so, what ends up happening is if you don't feel like it's an efficient use of your time, you stop going, right? And again, this is where the dynamic nature of being with somebody who really understands that lived experience component is so important. Because on paper, you look fine. You look like you're going to work, you're taking care of your kids, you're in a healthy relationship. Like it all looks fine, but under the surface is where we really need to get curious. So with that, I see a lot of women get missed, and in turn, they come in and they focus on time management, morning routines, setting better boundaries, which again are all very important, but are just treating the symptoms rather than the root. Okay, so what I'd like to do is shift gears a little bit because I've been talking at you guys for far too long. And one of the things that I'm really trying to build space into these calls is more conversation and more reflection. Because again, it's one thing to get peppered with information for an hour, and it's another thing to be able to take some tidbits and be able to sit with those a little bit and start reflecting on them. So, in order to move forward in changing the patterning of how we show up, we need to go backward. And this is the part most people don't want to do. It's not glamorous or sexy or anything like that. But it is required for us to be able to better understand why we are the way we are. So I invite you, I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to answer this question. Where did you learn to hold everything so well? your job, your family, your extracurriculars, your hobbies. You do such an incredible job of piecing everything together and holding it in an exceptional manner. I want you to think back to younger you and think about maybe where it could be a memory, it could just be a general reflection. I invite you to just take a moment and write and reflect. Where did you learn to hold everything so well? Go ahead, take a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll share this a little bit more. About one more minute. And if you want to, feel free to drop any thoughts into the chat, or you can come off mute when we come back together and share. All right, let's go ahead and come back. Excellent job. I hope that was helpful in beginning to build some awareness around that. Um, does anybody want to be brave and come off mute and share what that experience was like in terms of like, was it easy? Was it challenging? And anything that you might feel called to share about where you might have learned this from.
Hi, Elena.
Hi, Danielle. Thanks for being brave.
You're welcome. Um, so in terms of like what I like just my thought process, um, I just kept coming back to the fact that I thought it was like just a necessity based on my personality. So like there were many things I wanted as a young kid. I wanted to get good grades. I wanted to win races. I wanted to be involved in the extracurricular clubs to make friends and spend time and make a difference in the community. And I wanted to, I was an only child, so like being responsible for my family and like making sure that we had fun adventures and things. Like I just took all of it on because of the things I wanted. So it was like necessary that I just figured it out. Like I just had to learn how to make that space and accommodate it and like make it work. So I don't know that I like I didn't intentionally develop anything, it was just kind of like this has to happen and I'm the only one that can do it.
Hmm.
And then in terms of like the process itself of taking the time to do that, I kept questioning like, am I actually thinking about this with the right lens, or am I going deep enough, or am I pinpointing it to the right thing, or am I like just questioning if I was even doing it right? But
Yes. Did anybody else question if they were doing it right? That is so normal. Thank you for sharing. Because I think, yeah, I mean, part of the overthinking and rumination is like, am I like when I was going in the depths of my own like initial phases of healing a lot of these things, I was like, I almost thought that healing needed like a manual. I wanted to be like, step one, reflect on this. Step two, here's to make sure you did step one correctly. Like so much. And this is like why high achieving women like us do so well in school because it is so scripted and clear of like do this then do this then do this, and part of this process, Danielle, I think you articulated this so well, is really figuring out. I hear there were so many things that you wanted to do. How I would push you a little bit further is saying, did you actually want to do those things or were those things impressed upon you somewhere, right? Because as a little girl, you think about like if you know any little girls in your life, whether you have folks on the call have children or maybe nieces or just friends of friends, something about childhood and why I gravitated to working with kids in the first part of my career was like kids are so uninhibited. I live across from a daycare center and I listen to feral children scream all day. And like they're so uninhibited by life. And so when we think about, okay, well, I need to do well in school and I need to be competitive in my sports and I need to make sure we have adventures, like that, it sounds like a little adult, right? And so there was some kind of function there that impressed those things upon you of, well, why do I have to be a little adult? And I think a lot of us women on this call, I know I definitely can. There was a reason I had to become a little adult early. And so there's part of a process there of uncovering maybe why that is. Liz, I see your hand raised. I want to make sure I get to you.
Yes, I'm going to say a lot of the same things Danielle said. I'm also an oldest daughter, and I do think that
Oh,
has something to do
yes.
with it because
Yes.
I couldn't think of a specific like moment really, like or a memory like you mentioned. And so
Hmm.
I was trying to I was like racking my brain, but like I think what it came down to is that I just never wanted to be a burden. So
Mm.
it as the oldest daughter, like I know my middle sister, she always had a lot of tantrums and it was a lot of for my mom. So it's like, I wanted to help and be there and make sure, kind of more of a wallflower and like just and then my mom and my youngest sister, they were very similar personalities, so they butted heads a lot. And so
Oh,
like
yeah.
as the oldest daughter, it was just like, hey, you know what? I'll just help where I can and kind of be the peacemaker, that sort of thing. So I think that was part of it. Um, and now that I have a daughter who's 12 and she talks back to me a lot, and I'm like, I have to keep reminding myself, I'm like, you know what? She's using her voice, and that's good. Like, I have to keep like reminding myself that like it's okay that she's talking to me as long as she's talking respectfully. And I think
Absolutely.
that maybe I didn't have that when I was a kid, that like I felt like I was a little silenced in a way. So I think that's part of it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And like what a powerful testimony of like how you're breaking those patterns for this next generation, right? With your daughter. Being able to understand, I'm sure when she talks back, you're probably like, I would have never said that to my mom. But you're also looking at it through the lens of, oh, well, she feels safe and comfortable to be able to talk back and exercise her voice. I can obviously give her feedback on how she can do that a little bit more respectfully or whatever the situation might entail. But at the same time, that's something that you see that little you didn't feel comfortable doing. And what you described, the eldest daughter syndrome and the only child syndrome for Danielle, because I'm also an only child, is real. For eldest daughters, there is a strong propensity that you are the one to hold the family down. You are supposed to be the good girl, to not cause problems because likely one, if not more, of your siblings are raising hell with your parents. And so I totally hear what you shared all the time, Liz, is like fly under the radar, go unnoticed. Going unnoticed is a good thing, better than being one that is drawing attention. And then similarly for Danielle and I, only children, like it's just us. There's no other like distraction, right? And so I know in my personal experience and working with other only children, there's a lot of pressure that is imposed upon us, not intentionally by our parents, but they have all these resources and it's going to us. And so there's a lot of expectations. So like at least in my home growing up, there was a high expectation to perform and achieve. And so I just adopted that. Kind of Danielle, to your point, that's just what I thought I wanted. And then I realized like as I became an adult, and at my graduation ceremony, I was like, there's more to life than this. There's other things I can pour into and want and desire. And I had never really given myself an opportunity to consider what those things were. So, anybody else like to share? These are so good. Thank you both for being brave. Anybody else on the call want to share anything before we move on?
I'll share.
Okay,
Because I
great.
feel like mine's a little bit different. I'm a middle child, so
Oh yeah, there's my middle child and
yeah,
join the group chat.
I definitely match it. I will say that. But I was the opposite where I didn't want to cause problems for my family. I was like the shutdown. And I think that was because I was so hyper aware of my parents' emotions and I always had to, I don't want to say stepped on eggshells with my mom's emotions, but in a way, she was very perfectionist and her children were a representation of her
Hmm.
and grew up in a strict Christian homeschool household. So it's like prim, proper, bleh, where I'm like, I mean, I'm proper, but like I had that sassy side to me as a little girl, and like that was just not allowed. So I feel
Right.
like a lot of how I felt was shut down
Mm,
because I had to be
same.
so aware of my own mom's emotions that I wasn't allowed to even have any in a way.
Yes. Oh,
And I also know this, it's a generational curse in my family. My mom's mom did it. My dad's mom is the same way. It is just, I'm fully aware. This
mm.
is a curse that has to be broken off. And I know that might sound weird to some people, but it's like, I know. So yeah, but it's a hyper aware of just parental emotions that you just had to step on eggshells. As an adult, I understand it. As little girl Rachel, I'm like, what the heck was that?
100%. Yeah,
So
Liz,
yeah,
Liz hears you. The curse is real. Well, I think it's so important that you bring this up. Thank you, Rachel, for having the courage to bring this forward because I think this is something we could probably all relate to. I talked about early in this presentation, part of being intuitive and aware of your surroundings is that you're constantly evaluating and scanning and attuning to your environment, which is a gift, right? But Rachel, to your point, your constant scanning of how your mom's well-being was came at the cost of you. Same with you, Liz. You talked about like, there was chaos and stuff going on below me in my sibling birth order. So you were constantly picking up on that. And so you did your best to quell your own needs, your own emotions to be able to keep the peace. I mean, again, the whole intention of going backwards is not to blame. It's not to, cast judgment. Raising children is one of the hardest things you can do. But at the same time, we're doing this because we want to understand where the origin of this came from, right? So that I love, Liz, the example you gave around how you are using not only awareness, which is super important, but you're using action in the way that you're raising your daughter to break the cycle, to break the curse, whatever you want to call it, so that this, starting with you, can be the first generation that feels comfortable expressing her needs, saying when she's not okay, advocating for things even when it's uncomfortable, and ultimately using your voice to do that. And so, thank you all for sharing. I love how each one of us shared something a little bit different, but it plugs in right to this greater narrative. So I hope you feel by hearing this from your peers that like you're not alone. We're all navigating this journey. And so I invite you after the masterclass today to really sit with this idea of getting curious about like some early upbringing experiences and just taking some time through the weekend to really begin to journal, sit down. Maybe if your parents are still living, talk with your parents about it. Or if you have siblings, talk with your siblings about it. Just have these conversations because I think again, going back and nurturing that little version of you is the first step in healing the big version of you. Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit about a before and after kind of transformation in doing this work, the work that I do. And we kind of started with the beginning of it on and talking about the little versions of us. But I wanted to use myself as an example because I am really I'm proud of myself. Look, I'm saying it. I'm proud of myself. I'm deeply proud of myself and the work that I have done. This has been about 7 years of consistent work and energy and effort into becoming the person who's on this call with you. And so I always like to do a little case example or something to show how this isn't just fluff, this is real evidence-based change that happens. And so on the left hand of the slide here, I have the before version of me. I put my Hogwarts gear in there from a graduation photo, and then the current version of me. And so I already shared with you some details around this, but before I was really able to start doing this deeper work, I was chronically ill. I felt like someone in their 70s, and I was only 25 years old. Whereas now I have built a relationship with my body where I am deeply in tune with my physical, mental, and emotional health. I know something's coming because I usually get like a crick in my neck or I wake up and my shoulders sore, and I now understand how our bodies hold emotional pain. Whereas before I was just like, oh, gotta stretch my shoulder. Like everything is very interconnected, right? Before my whole identity was attached to performance and work. So this idea of like, who was I if I was not a psychologist, right? And now really understanding that work is just one aspect of my identity, not all of it. This is a big one, right? Because for many of us, we are so good at our work and we get feedback from that from the time we were little and in school when you got an A on an exam. Like it was this input of like, congratulations, you're so good at this. And again, a lot of us latch onto that. Achievement, high achievement was how I proved my worth, my worthiness. Now understanding that my worth isn't something I have to earn anymore. What if I told you this? You are just worthy as you are. Whether you get through that to-do list today, whether you finish the task set for yourself, whether you're able to get 8 hours of sleep every night, whether your diet's locked in, regardless of any of that, you are just worthy being you. I know, a novel concept, right? I think being able to repattern our brains to understand that you are just worthy because you got up today. Doesn't matter how you showed up. You're still worthy. And that is a big mindset shift. That has changed the game for me. Running on adrenaline and calling it drive. I don't know if anybody else can relate to this. I was sucking down so much coffee. Faith and I were on here before we launched this masterclass, and we are both decaf coffee girlies now. And she had a regular coffee today, and I was like, "How did we used to run on that?" It's like literally a cortisol spike and just like this adrenaline go, 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 and calling it like, "Oh, I'm really productive. I'm really driven today." Versus now running on capacity and calling it sustainable. For me, I recognize that some days what I could normally get through 8 to 10, oh, deep breaths over there, Faye. She said her heart's still racing. Um, some days I wake up and I just don't have the capacity to get through my to-do list that I could have maybe gotten through the day before. Understanding that every day is going to look a little bit different and I can adjust my expectations without shaming myself in the process. This is a big one. I feel like I got some people pleasers on here. Said yes to everything out of fear of disappointing people. Drop a one in the chat if you're a FOMO girly. You feel like you just got to say yes or else they're gonna hate you. They're gonna, oh yeah, I can relate to this. Yes, okay. You're not alone. I get it. I get it. This ability to say yes, not to disappoint, again, often comes from those early childhood experiences and really disentangling this idea that the greatest form of self-respect is being able to say no when you don't have the capacity. So now I only say yes to things when they're aligned. Only when they're aligned, right? When they feel like they're supportive to me, that they bring me energy, and the things that I don't, I just simply say I don't have capacity for. That's like my favorite phrase. Feel free to steal that in an email. Thank you so much for sending this over. However, I am at capacity right now. I'd love to revisit this in a few weeks. It's so liberating, guys. It's so liberating. Okay. This was a big one for me. I still wrestle with this pretty much every day. Rest felt like falling behind. Go ahead and drop a 2 in the chat if you love a full calendar. If you love when your calendar is nice and full, Danielle, you can relate. Yes, I can relate. When there's space in my calendar, I start to panic, right? Of like, what am I going to do with all this time? I will get bored. Um, yes, Liz, learning to relax. Rest is part of how I build. With Flow State, I made this transition in my business from working largely with children and families to working with ambitious women around March of this year. And anytime you make a pivot, whether it's changing jobs, making a pivot in a business, there's a lull period. You don't just like wake up the next day and like everything's like amazing and moving and like a well-oiled machine. And so part of what this season has taught me is there were times, especially this summer, where I didn't have a lot of client calls. I didn't have a lot of things to do. And part of me would like sit here at my computer and temper tantrum. I would literally have a temper tantrum. Like, why isn't things working? If I just post one more LinkedIn post, if I just get on Instagram and talk one more time, something's going to change. And I would literally have to put myself to bed like a child. It'd be like 1 o'clock. I'd have to send myself into my room and put myself to bed and be like, don't get out of bed until you rest for an hour. And I would end up, temper tantruming and then falling asleep and then getting up and feeling much better. Rest is part of how I build this business, how I build the legacy of this business. I can't build it from the same jet fuel that I ran on before, or else I'll just burn out again. And last but not least, I didn't know who I was without a title or a win. I mean, I went and got a doctorate, not just because it gave me more job opportunities. It's pretty cool to be called Dr. Puff, right? But so much of my work now is not an embodiment of Dr. Puff. It's an embodiment of Elena. I know who I am without any letters after my name. I know who I am without any coaching certification. I know who I am and I know what I'm here to do. And that is one of the greatest gifts I gave myself in this process. So, again, I just want to bring some of these things forward because you might be able to relate to things on each column. Um, and I just want to share a little bit more about my transformation because, again, it's one that I'm deeply proud of, as I already mentioned. And this is totally possible for you as well. Okay, so as we round out the masterclass for today, I want to leave you with some actionable, tangible next steps because I think, again, we get really excited talking about these things and then we get off the call and it's like, oh, my email's blowing up, or oh, I have all these things that I need to get done. And we lose that momentum. So let's talk about some small adjustments that we can make to really start digging deeper into this work. One thing that I tell clients to do is set a goal for themselves. As high achieving, well adjusted girlies, we love a goal. We love like something like concrete and data driven. And so my invitation for you is you can start tomorrow, you could start today, you could start on Monday. You get to decide. But I want you to make a goal for 1 week. Throughout that week, one time to when somebody asks you how you're doing, you're honest with them. Now, I'm not asking you to like trauma dump on the clerk at the grocery store because that can get a little hairy. I've definitely been there before and it gets a little hairy. People behind you get upset because you're taking too long. Like, read the room, ladies. But but being able, if it's your partner or spouse, if it's a close friend, start small, right? And when they say, "Hey, how's your week going?" Be honest. Don't flip it back on them right away. Especially these people close to us, they want to know how we're doing. And honestly, if you do this, like I remember I did this with one of my close friends who we didn't really have that kind of relationship. It was more like, yeah, things are good. Yeah, we're busy with work. And one day she called me and I said, I'm really struggling. And I could sense like the uncomfortability that she felt of like, I don't know what to say next. It's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And She responded so perfectly. She goes, "What do you need from me?" And I was like, "I think I just need you to shut up and listen." And that was that, right? And so that opened a whole portal of our friendship of being able to understand that sometimes I just got to call you and tell you, like, I'm not good. Can you listen? And, learning, we had conversations about when you don't have the capacity to listen and when you do. And it has nothing to do with our relationship. So your invitation is in this next week, Friday to Friday, Saturday to Saturday, Monday to Monday, whatever you decide. When somebody comes to you and you're having small talk conversation, your invitation is to be very honest, especially if you're feeling something deeper or challenging. The other piece that I really think can make a small shift that can go a very long way is this idea of rest. A lot of the times I'm even this way. I love a busy schedule. I have calls right after this. I'm booked and busy till the end of the day. But I had 30 minutes before this call that came up, that opened up, and I was like, well, I could send some emails and really set myself up for a strong start on Monday. Do you know what I did? I went and sat outside. I went and pet my dog. I went and took some deep breaths. Because, yeah, the emails would have been great to set me up for a strong start on Monday, but they would have came at such a cost. And by doing that, I'd like to think that by going outside and being with my dog, it allowed me to be more present on this call with you today, right? And these small shifts go such a long way. So, your same invitation, you find yourself with 10, 15 minutes, doesn't even need to be that much time. Notice when your brain tells you to do the more productive thing, and choose the opposite. Okay. Again, this is something that takes practice. I'm by no means a master at it. It just takes small intentional shifts. Another one that I want to give you. Notice one moment you performed competence instead of asking for help, and do the opposite next time. You see a trend here. I'm asking you to do the opposite of what you normally do. So, Rachel, when you're at the store and you have all your employees you're going through the things you need to get done, and you feel the need to say, I'll take that because I'm the boss lady. Check yourself and say, I really could use help with this. Because I guarantee you have a bunch of girlies who are going to be there ready to help you. Right? Small shifts. When you say, oh, it's fine, just I'll add it to the list. Pause and say, actually, the list is feeling kind of full. I could use some help. This is the big one. If you do nothing else, I want you to do this last one. Let one thing be imperfect on purpose. Everyone's like, okay, we're going to hang up the call, Elena. This is so powerful for my high achieving, well adjusted girlies because we are low key, all high functioning perfectionists. Okay. We do things and we do them well. Let one thing be imperfect. I don't know if you noticed this, but I hope this helps you understand that I don't use AI to make these presentations. I had typos in this presentation. I bet you all clocked it too. I totally know you did. No, Rachel. Danielle's like, yes, I saw it. There are typos in this presentation. And do you know that when I came across every single one, I had a small eye twitch? You can go back and watch the recording to see it. I let the typos stay there. Because to me, the old story would have been, oh, you look unprofessional. This looks rushed. But you know what? My worth and this message transcends this PowerPoint slide deck. So I let the typos be in there. And I am learning to tolerate that things don't always have to be pretty, shiny, and perfect. So that's a grandiose gesture. Find a small one. Clean something and don't clean it to your normal standards. Leave the clothes on the floor for a day. Whatever it is. Danielle's like, no, I draw the line at the clothes. When you start, this is actually like a therapeutic technique, it's exposure therapy. When you start letting small incremental things be imperfect, you recognize that, again, you can build the tolerance to manage it. That things are okay, the sun will set and rise. And again, you're able to build this into your work life too, right? When you go back and you find the typo in your email and you don't shame yourself for it. Again, small incremental changes that go a long way. So with that, I'm going to close out for today. I want to leave you with this. I am so excited. I finally got my act together and launched my newest offering called the Clarity Intensive. I just want to share this with those who are on the live call and those who are watching this through the recording. This is something that I'm so excited to offer my community. This is a one-on-one coaching program that is 3 months long, and I like to say that you could change your life in just 1 quarter. The Clarity Intensive is built around this idea of what we talked about today, making these shifts, really getting to the root of what is going on in terms of our daily functioning, how we view ourselves, old patterning, old belief systems. That's what we really do in month one is we dig and we find out what is no longer aligned. What are these old things that are running and really getting clarity on what those are. Month two, we build a foundation for our new house. The old house, you're getting bumped out of there. The new house is one that is built on alignment. It's built on nervous system regulation. It's built on a life that aligns with your values, not one that you think you just should do or one that in this case you've inherited. Month three is the strategy. How do we start putting this into practice and integrating this into our life? I think one of the things in my like therapeutic journey and even in my receiving coaching support is people wanted me to be investing in this work for like 6 to 12 months and even beyond that, sometimes years. And I did. And I built this program with the intention that we have spent most of our lives with our head in the sand, doing what we are supposed to be doing. And this program is really here to give you quick change and clarity fast. I don't want you to spend the next 2 years of your life sitting in a therapy office wondering if it's always going to be this way. I want you to get clarity. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to do it with somebody who gets you, who understands what the challenges are around this and how to move the needle in a way that feels supportive for you. So again, just wanted to announce this launch. I will be sending more information in our follow-up email. So if you're interested, let me know. With that, one of the things that I always offer as part of the collection masterclass series is an energy check-in. Even if you've done an energy check-in with me before, the invitation still stands. I love to clear my calendar and have conversations with you all after these masterclasses. We talk about what came up, what resonated, what landed from today's talk. I talk you through my flow state framework and where you fall in that. I'll help you identify your number one energy leak. Like what is something that you can do right now to make that small change? Again, we go to conferences, we go to classes like this, we get really super energized and excited, and then we hang up and nothing comes of it. So this is my invitation to you to go ahead and step into a call, keep the momentum going, no strings attached, just an opportunity for us to connect because I love having conversations with women just like you. So QR codes there. Again, details will be found in the email that comes after today's session. With that being said, I think I'm nailing it on time. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. This is exactly the work that I am so dedicated to doing is having conversations like this. And so what we're going to be doing for next month is really amazing. We're going to talk money next month because money has been a hot button topic that has been coming over and over again. Even women who want to invest in the Clarity Intensive are like, I don't know if financially I feel ready to do that. And so we're going to talk about money because that is just something that we all universally run into. Next month, our masterclass will take place on September 17th from 12 to 1 p.m. It's called The Scarcity Trap: Why Your Bank Account Can't Buy You Peace. Ooh, spicy. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I have my contact information on there. Please give me a follow on Instagram if you don't already. I love posting stuff on there around topics just like this one. And feel free to DM me the word flow if you want to continue the conversation over there. I'd love to chat and connect. With that, it is the top of the hour, so I will stop talking. If anybody has any lingering questions, I'll stick around for a little bit. But thank you again for being here, and I'll see you next month. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rach. Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Hey,
you did it.
let me stop the recording really quick.
Oh.